Hey there everyone, welcome to today's video. We have a reflection on this upcoming weekend's readings for the 5th Sunday of Lent. Again, it seems like these have been helpful for people, whether that be in adoration or just otherwise, just listening to a reflection. I also want to really encourage you to, if you're already meeting with people and kind of trying to share life and have a quasi small group experience, my intention is also that you could use that for this, just to aid your own reflection and give you something to reflect on with that group and, make it evangelical in that sense. So, again, I hope these are helpful for you. Please continue to like and subscribe and to, be a part of all the good things we're doing. This weekend, we will read from John chapter 11. It's another long reading. We have a lot of long readings in year A of the lectionary cycle. So we hear this. The sisters of Lazarus sent word to Jesus saying, "Master, the one you love is ill." When Jesus heard this, he said, "This illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, so the Son of Man may be glorified through it." Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to his disciples, "Let us go back to Judea." When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him. But Mary sat at home. Martha said to Jesus, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you." Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise." Martha said, "I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day." Jesus told her, "I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord, I have come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, the one who is coming into the world." He became perturbed and deeply troubled and said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Sir, come and see." And Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him." But some of them said, "Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died?" So Jesus, perturbed again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay across it. Jesus said, "Take away the stone." Martha, the dead man's sister, said to him, "Lord, by now there will be a stench, for he has been dead for 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus raised his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me. But because of the crowd here I have said this, that they may believe that you sent me." And when he had said this, he cried out in a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." The dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth. So Jesus said to them, "Untie him and let him go." Now many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seen what he had done began to believe in him. I'm not a great reader. So here are some reflection questions on this coming Sunday's Gospel. Could I summarize what is the basic story and content of what we just listened to or read? Can I give an overall story of it? Right? Jesus is off doing Messiah-like things, and he hears that his best friend, one of his closest friends, has died. And he then travels to be with Lazarus, with Martha and Mary, to mourn over the death of Lazarus. And when he gets there, Lazarus has already been dead for 4 whole days, and yet Martha is still asking him to do something about it. Jesus eventually goes to the tomb and commands Lazarus to come out of the tomb. And he does, bound still with burial cloths that they would do for those who had died. Right, ultimately, through it, Martha elevates her belief in the resurrection. The resurrection was certainly a part of the certain Jewish sects of the Jewish faith, but that it's not just simply that we believe in the resurrection, but that Jesus himself will resurrect the person, right? That God in his goodness will do something. What would you say is the overall good news of this passage? I think we could say that even in death, God is still caring. And not just for the dead, right? Even in death, God is still caring for those who are mourning. I have lost both of my parents and very much felt comforted by the church, by God himself. I think there's actually some genius that we have in the Catholic Church, that there is a ritual for mourning the dead. It's sometimes kind of this awkward situation when a family wants to kind of do their own thing. Ultimately, they're not really there to mourn with the church. They're there to kind of do their own, whatever it might be. I'm not saying anything bad about it, but there's some genius in the Catholicism in after 2,000 years of mourning. I think that the church knows how to do it and offers a way to mourn with the church, that we don't have to come up with our own thing. I think that's the good news. Jesus mourns for the dead, and he mourns with those who are mourning for the dead. It says that Jesus' best friend died, and Jesus wept. Right, again, Jesus is moved with sadness. Right, it wasn't just that he felt bad. It wasn't just that he missed him, but he wept. He cried at the death of his friend. I had it in my head as a child that, because my dad told me that men don't cry, until we were at my grandma's funeral and my dad, he cried. Right, there's something about, right, the internal movement of the person that has true sorrow at the death of a close one, a loved one, a family or friend. How does this shed light upon those suffering? We are not alone. Right, I think the sad reality that we have come to believe that suffering is a bad thing. Right, we choose the Lenten season and to partake in it to endure some bit of suffering, because God can take the suffering of someone and make it for their glory and ultimately for God's glory. Right? Suffering is not a bad thing. It might not be something we want to do, but every montage of every movie I've ever seen reveals that the person who has to go through growth always is better off for it afterwards. Suffering is not bad, but it can help us become who God is calling us to be. When bad things happen to us or to our friends, who do we turn to, right? Martha and Mary turned to Jesus. They sent word to Jesus. When bad things happen to you, who do you turn to? I think as men, we can sometimes have the inclination to think that I got to just deal with this myself, totally silently, not letting anyone else in there, and I slowly let things brood. And my heart becomes hardened because of it. Right, Martha and Mary turn to Jesus, and Jesus himself also weeps. He wept at the death of Lazarus. Right, it's good for us to mourn with others. Right, where sadness at the loss of someone of our community, whether it be family community, greater community, friend community, church community, it's good for us also to do that as a community. Why did Jesus wait? It's such a unique part of the reading that Jesus waited 2 days before he left. Why do you think Jesus waited 2 days? Right? What does that say that Jesus waited 2 days? He truly wept and then went. I think some bit of it can be that Jesus needed time to really process, that he was weeping, right? That there's sadness there. Obviously, in his divine nature, he understands and comprehends everything. There's nothing that he doesn't know in his divine nature. But humanly, right, there is a movement of the person through the stages of grief. And so Jesus, I think part of it was he waited 2 days, right, for humanly speaking, to process the whole thing. What does the conversation with Martha and Mary reveal about who Jesus is? Or he ultimately reveals to them in his conversation just the exact nature of who he is, right? That he is the salvation, right? He is the resurrection. Right, we hear another I am statement here. Right, Jesus is saying something very, very clear. And it's in his clarity that Martha and Mary come to understand that. What parts of our life need to be risen from the dead? Sometimes that can be in family structures where, because of our past, our family just keeps us in this box that we can't get out of. I think in many ways, sometimes it's also ourselves. We put ourselves in a box. We limit ourselves. We begin to believe that there are things that we just simply can't do, and we've now fully accepted, I just can't do these things. Right? Where do I need resurrection, even in my own thoughts about myself? What do you think Lazarus' life was like after he rose from the dead? Or the thing that culture fears, death, right? Everyone's trying to figure out what's the exact way that we can live forever here on earth. Right? We want to stay young, we want to stay healthy, we dread getting old. I hear older people all the time, saying, never get old, it's terrible. Right? We ultimately are getting closer and closer to breathing our last. Lazarus did do that and came back from the dead. Right? What do you think life was like? Right? The experience, the insight that he had. Right? Imagine what it was like for Lazarus as he hears Jesus has died. Right? What that kind of weeping would be like. What that kind of sorrow. But also, he knows the power that Jesus has. He knows that resurrection is real. We don't really hear much about Lazarus after this. We don't really write anything. We don't have any of the saints, any of the Gospels, talk about him or anything like that. You can imagine when he went out and shared the gospel, what that was like. Right? Someone who's truly experienced the resurrection and then could talk about Jesus' resurrection. Sometimes the greatest evangelizers are those who have the greatest sins, St. Paul being one of them. Right? When he talked about the resurrection, knowing that he had been resurrected from his own sin of murder, you can imagine what that was like to share with other people. Anyone watching this video that has mourned the loss of a loved one, knowing that Jesus wept, know that Jesus traveled to be with his loved ones as they mourned, what does this call to mind for you? When I mourn my loved ones that I've lost, did I mourn with Jesus? It's not too late to still bring Jesus into that. There's a movie that came out a few years ago about near-death experiences and how similar they all seem to be, and that there always seems to kind of be this barrier that they got to, and beyond it was something, but they couldn't exactly phrase what it was, and they were basked in light. It was a really amazing movie. It was in theaters. This is probably two years ago. I don't remember the name of the movie, but with that very brief, poor description, if you want to look it up. Or so have you ever heard of people who have had a near-death experience? Oftentimes they do experience things. Sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes it's depravity. But sometimes it's the loving warmth of God. I would say almost all of them come back and they change things about their life. It'd be sad that we always have to wait for a near-death experience for life to change. Right, knowing that Martha and Mary mourned for the loss of their loved one, they also probably thought of all the things they wish they would have done with their brother before he died. At some point, you and I, we will die. It's just the reality of life. I'm not trying to be mean or, be too quick to bring that up, but at some point, all of us, we will meet God. The sadness of dying with still having wishes for my life. What are the things that I would look back on after death and wish I would have done? What about the people that also that might die in my family and I wish I would have done this with them? It's no time like the present. I hope this gospel reflection is helpful for you. I hope that you're having a fantastic Lenten season. Hope you're able to join us for the Palm Sunday pilgrimage and know that God is doing fascinating things in your life and He loves you so, so much. Never mourn alone. Happy Lent and God bless you.